sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to sit it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Vanessa Gatica, Habir Singh Kang, Fuad Andrewas and George Grossios.
Hello, I am Vanessa Gatica and welcome to our program. Our panelists tonight are Habir Singh Khan and George Grossios, and we'll be having a special report from Fuad Andrewas in Adelaide soon. So hello guys.
Hello Vanessa.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
Friday Night Footy from Marvel Stadium saw St Kilda go down by 28 points from a victorious Western Bulldogs outfit. And on Saturday afternoon, Collingwood just made it home again by a small margin of 5 points against Adelaide, while Brisbane defeated the Giants by 40 points, and North Melbourne surprised by beating Richmond by 4 points. Also, Geelong outmuscled Carlton to win by 30 points. Fremantle at home went down badly against a determined Swan side by 17 points. Hawthorn defeated the West Coast by 25 points, while Melbourne in Darwin did the job on Port Adelaide by 14 points. And another surprise when Essendon decimated the highly fancied Gold Coast Suns by 48 points. Habir, what did you think of the weekend's results?
Well, I think the same. Few upsets for me in these games. Even between Bulldogs and St Kilda, that was kind of upset because we expected a fierce contest between these two, knowing that top 8 position was on the line. So St Kilda just didn't turn up for the 3 quarters, and suddenly, I don't know what got into them in the 4th quarter. If that happened at the start, would have been things totally different from what they were. And good, all credit to Bulldogs. Without Aaron Norton, I think they were able to win that one, so that's a huge plus. Josh Bruce came in, he didn't do that well, but he was still there, his presence was there, and others helped around him. But I don't know what happened with St Kilda, definitely expected better of them.
It was their worst performance of the year, Habir, and you'd be happy about that being, of course, a Western Bulldog supporter. Buku Kamas, you've actually found a defender in that young boy, played really, really well. Bontempelli back to his best game of the year. And as you said, no Aaron Norton. So Western Bulldogs, a timely win, but for the Saints, terribly disappointing. That's 2 losses in a row. Mathematically, they're still in the hunt for the 8, but they've made it really difficult for themselves. That was just a really terrible performance. Yeah,
no, definitely. And Collingwood just keeps on finding a way to win at the moment. But to me, I think the close wins they are having, this is probably going to make them more confident, because they know that it doesn't matter what condition they are in, there is still a hope for them. And all the players, they sort of believe themselves. And what a player Nick Dykos has become. We talk about him each and every week. And still, I don't know where he's going to end up. Probably going to be much more he's going to leave much bigger legacy than his dad maybe.
But I'll tell you where he'll end up, Habir. He'll win the Rising Star Award and potentially the Copeland Trophy. There's talk about him actually leading the Collingwood Awards, but you're right, what a fantastic performance by him. 40 disposals, 3 goals, won the match for them, which is a remarkable effort for a young man in his first season of football.
Yeah, no, definitely. Even the Brownlow is not very far for him.
Don't go that far. But he'll certainly poll in a number of games because he has done really well in a number of games. But Adelaide, they did okay. Tex Walker with the 5 goals. They were in it right till the very end, the Crows, so that'd be heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, definitely they will be. But that's what Collingwood's doing to the other teams at the moment. And Brisbane will expect them to win, and they did. GWS Giants, they just not there this season. They haven't been performing well. And Brisbane, I wouldn't say they're coming into the full-fledged form, because they've been struggling with the injuries here and there, and some performances which they wouldn't like against the good teams. But they definitely got a huge prospect in the coming games as well.
Well, Toby Green kept them in the game with 4 goals in the first half, and Sam Taylor held up the back line. Without those two, they would have suffered a much heavier defeat.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what a win. North Melbourne, finally a win dedicated to their departing coach, I suppose. That's what Jack Zeeble said. So nevertheless, a win after like sort of 14 games or something like that, but definitely a moment to cherish for them. And the way they have performed this season, everyone was saying that they are probably the best wooden spooners last year, but they couldn't match it up performances this year. But Adam Zuha, everyone like in the team performed well, and so that's why Cam Zuha, and he was able to come up with a very good performance, and others around him as well. It was good to see them performing. And Richmond, like we've seen them in the past, where they're leading and then they losing that game as well, and sometimes they're just hanging on. So it's not the Richmond that we know of. So that's and it's happening at a very long time too.
Great opening game for Lee Adams, who of course has replaced David Noble. Where was this form earlier in the season? So the players after the game said, we've dedicated this to David Noble. You should have dedicated all of your performances to David Noble throughout the season, but good luck to them.
Well, I would say that another upset was where Sydney beat Fremantle for me. Never expected Fremantle to perform that bad against Sydney, but I think a team which is like coming into form at the right spot at the moment, and the way that what they've done to Bulldogs, and they haven't stopped until that. So they after that shocking loss from Essendon, I think they've learned their lesson. They've find a mojo, and coming into the top 8, I think they're staying in the top 8, and they're going to be a threat. And now they potentially has a chance to be in the top 4. And Fremantle they've been found wanting at some stages now, and I think after the bye round or so, they haven't been performing that well. So those concerns are coming up. Before they used to be a very good defensive side, which they sort of lacked against Sydney, so they haven't been able to find their rhythm. So let's see what happens in the future, but Sydney, all credit to them, the way the players are playing at the moment. Beautiful game.
Absolutely, they were very impressive on the road again, the Sydney Swans. Chad Warner has been an absolute star for them in midfield, and of course they've got a host of other great midfielders, and their defence has been holding up really, really well. Fremantle apply the blowtorch on their home ground. The Swans withstood all of that. They didn't even have to have Franklin at his best. He only kicked the 1 goal. But when you've got Isaac Heaney up forward as well. But for me, Chad Warner, I just love the way that young player goes about it. So they're on a really, really good footing at the moment, the Swans. And then the Blues in their clash Saturday night. Speaking of litmus tests, they just weren't quite good enough. The Blues, no disgrace to lose to the Cats, of course, but the Cats just too much experience. Blitzarves doing a great job on all of his particular opponents. They can utilise him in the back line, in the midfield, and Selwood again causing a little bit of controversy with those ducking tackles. It's become a problem for the game in recent weeks. It's crept into the game at an increased level. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we did talk about that last week as well, and we're seeing that over the period of time, Selwood has got away with it a lot of times, whereas the other players now, they are not getting away with it. So we really need to draw a line where we stop, and is it a skill or is it something we want to wipe it out of our game? So that's probably the main discussion. And what a day for De Koning family. Both sides players playing well and then scoring the goal, and they're having fun out there. And Geelong at the moment, I think they've just added on to their credentials of becoming the premiers this year. I think the way they handle the situation, they are without Stewart at the moment, who's been their 40 disposal.
Tom Stewart in defence.
Yeah, and he was there to get like 40 disposal at the back, and he's not there. So it's fantastic result for the Geelong.
Thank you, guys. And we'll be back after the break with Foa's special report and with more reviews and previews. Hawthorn upset the West Coast, while up in Darwin, Melbourne defeat Port Adelaide, and Essendon and Marvel prevail over the Gold Coast. Guys.
Well, Hawthorn back-to-back wins. An impressive win in the end. That last quarter was the decisive point for the Hawks. They managed to pile on some goals to increase their lead. They did what they needed to do, Habir.
Yeah. Now, Luke Bruce came up with 6 goals. I think that was a huge... we've been seeing that Mitch Lewis taking on the forward line as well. It was good to see someone else contributing in a big manner. So a great win for the Hawks. And Melbourne and Port Adelaide, that was a very good game. The way it started off, I think Port Adelaide had their chances making it to top 8, but they ruined it in the end. And good thing was... Melbourne came in, and Cosy Pickett, he felt at home over there, and what a great result for the team.
Kicking 6 goals, and 4 of those goals potentially goals of the year. So we know he's a goal sneak, we know he's exciting, but he stood up when he needed to. He's been in patchy form, but great for Melbourne that they have another forward option. Essendon, their great form continues. Where has this form been all year? Some scalps in recent weeks. The Swans, the Brisbane Lions. Full credit to the Bombers. Ben Rutten has managed to turn things around. Sam Draper was the man of the moment.
Definitely, and probably another goal of the year performance from Draper as well over there. So Essendon, as you mentioned, I don't know where they were. Only thing they've done is they've saved their coach's post at the moment. That's all I can say in this season. The way they performed last year, they haven't risen. So that's probably a cause of concern. So it's again, last year on the back of last performances, they were able to make it top 8. This year, they couldn't do that. So I don't know how they end up going to do next year. I think that's going to be a big question for Essendon.
Well, this defeat has really cost the Gold Coast. They're still mathematically in the hunt, but on that sort of form, the 8 will be out of reach.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys. Now it's time for us to join Fuad from Adelaide, who has some grim predictions for the 4 teams west of the Victorian border. Hi, Fuad.
Hello, everyone, and good to be back again. Let's start with the games from Western Australia and South Australia. Unfortunately, I haven't got good news to the fans. The 4 teams lost last week, Adelaide and Collingwood. What a game. It went to the wire, of course, and Collingwood winners by 5 points. The only good thing came out of it, of course, the Taylor Walker scoring 5 goals, and also the young man was a bright future, Dykos. He scored 3 goals and had a fantastic game. Melbourne played, of course, Port in Alice Springs, and what a game for young Pickett. He scored 6 goals, and 5 of those could have been the goal of the year. And there was no standout players from Port Adelaide apart from Marshall and Poe scoring 2 goals each. Let's go to the Dockers. What happened there? Freo, they were in a game against Sydney, and especially when they played at their home ground. And they, up to the last, the first quarter, they were ahead 21-7. Second quarter, there was 41-26, but they couldn't finish the game, and they lost, of course, by 17 points. Now let's go to the last game of the round for those teams. Hawthorn against, of course, West Coast. West Coast were brave, but they couldn't match Hawthorn, and they lost, of course, by 25 points, but they were still competitive during the match. The other thing is some tough games next week for those teams. Sydney will play Adelaide on Saturday, and also Port Adelaide will play Geelong at home, and then Richmond will play Freo on Friday night, and West Coast, they will play, of course, St Kilda at home. The last thing I want to talk about is just the coaches. Of course, when they asked Ross Lyon about is he going to coach next year, he said, I'm not sure yet. So that means yes. But when they asked Nathan Buckley, and he said, definitely not. I'm enjoying my media. Anyway, good luck to all the coaches for next year, and good luck to the teams. And we wish them a good result anyway for everyone. From Fuad Andreas, I'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Fuad. Moving to round 19, which opened Friday night from Marvel Stadium between Richmond and Fremantle, while on Saturday, Sydney takes on Adelaide at the SCG, and North Melbourne meets Hawthorn at Blundstone Arena in Hobart. Any potential surprises on those matches, Javier?
Yeah, definitely. Surprise would be that Fremantle might just blow away Richmond at the moment, the way they are playing. And with Max Lynch out and Dustin Martin out as well, so they've got their work cut out at the hand. And the way Fremantle are performing at the moment, I think this is probably the crunch time. They need to perform well and should make a big statement against Richmond, because they've been found wanting in the few assets of the games. So they need to come up with something, and I think Fremantle has got the good opportunity. They will come on top in this one.
Well, Richmond looking to arrest a losing streak. That's 2 losses where they've led the match, they've thrown it away. Their supporters and their coach Hardwick will be hoping and praying when they hit the lead they can actually maintain it, because it's been a very un-Richmond-like fortnight to lose those games where they controlled the matches. And Sydney should be way too strong for Adelaide. Sydney coming off that great win away from home last week. Opportunity for them to boost their percentage.
Yeah, definitely. And Adelaide needs to come up with stronger opposition. At the way they're pressuring other teams at the moment, it's just not been good enough. Although Tex Walker is like this lone warrior standing there, and he's been performing very well. So this game, I don't see them beating Sydney, but I hope that they come up with a stronger game, this one.
Can you see North Melbourne beating Hawthorn in Tasmania?
Well, you never know. Because it's in Tasmania, North Melbourne has played some good games too. And then again, on the other hand side, it's a fortress for Hawks as well. So both teams would fancy their chances a little bit, although it would be too much to ask for North Melbourne at the moment. I think the way Hawks are playing, they will definitely dismantle them in that game.
Well, it's been a big fortnight for North Melbourne, almost beating Collingwood 2 weeks ago, that great win against Richmond. But I think Hawthorn will be too steady, and they'll finally notch up 3 wins in a row.
Oh, well, good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck to you, exactly. Thank you, guys. We shall see you back on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Continuing with our preview of round 19, Port Adelaide at home met Geelong. Brisbane play Gold Coast in the local derby, and the Western Bulldogs will play Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Sunday, Carlton play the Giants from Marvel. Collingwood go head-to-head with Essendon, and over in Perth, the West Coast plays St Kilda. George, a few 50-50s in that mix. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't have thought the Port Adelaide-Geelong match will be a 50-50 match on paper. The Cats should be too strong. Port Adelaide, not Port Melbourne, Port Adelaide, for all of our Melbourne viewers, should be a strong team at home, but if they lose this, the season's over. They're still mathematically a chance. They're a game and percentage out of the 8, but if they lose this, it's curtains.
Yeah, if Geelong play to their potential, I don't think Port Adelaide can win even at home. However, they might miss Tom Stewart finally in one game, and Port Adelaide might be able to pounce on that one. Charlie Dixon might be able to get some advantages over there, but having De Koning at the back, I don't think they will miss. And the way they have constructed their defence now, I think it's still not easy to penetrate. So Port Adelaide, I will give them the home advantage and say that they might win, but it's going to be very hard for them.
The great thing is the Cats can throw blitz-halves back in defence and help out height-wise. Brisbane taking on Gold Coast in the Queensland Derby. The Gold Coast ruining that loss to Essendon last week. Again, mathematically, there's still a chance, but Brisbane themselves looking to secure and consolidate that place in the top 4. They'll be hungry. Yep. And I'll tip Brisbane by at least 5 goals. No,
definitely no surprises for me there. Brisbane will come on top in that game, and they'll be desperate to get a home final, so I think they'll be going all out. And Gold Coast might put up a threat for some time, but I don't see them winning there.
Now, last year's grand finalists going head-to-head, I think Melbourne will be too strong, I'm sorry to say. Habir, I know they had a great win against a very disappointing and lacklustre St Kilda. The Dogs are desperate to obviously stay in touch with the 8, but I think Melbourne will be too strong.
Melbourne should be too strong. Their midfield holds much better against Bulldogs midfield. I think, and they, from the past experiences, they've got the measure. Unless Luke Beveridge, like he did with the Buku Kamis coming in the back, he can pull up another surprise for Melbourne, and that works well for him. I don't see them winning, although I'm expecting this one to be a very close contest.
Josh Bruce was very rusty last week. Hopefully he can find some form. As you say, with Aaron Norton out of the team, that's a big loss now. Carlton versus GWS. I expect Carlton to get back to winning ways. GWS, their season is fast fading, so Carlton have a lot more to play for. They're in striking distance of the top 4, which is just a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, now you're absolutely right on that. With Carlton, I think they have all the ammunition, they have everything right. It is just that they just met a better team on that day. So that's what made them lose against Geelong. But against GWS, I'm pretty sure they will have a good chance.
And speaking of ladder, Habir, these next 2 weeks are crucial for the makeup of the top 8. Lots of permutations. Just looking at, for example, Fremantle, they've got their clash against Richmond and Melbourne coming up. their hold on the top 4 is very tenuous at the moment. If they lose both of those games, an opportunity for the Blues and the Pies. Even your mob, they've got the D's, the Cats and the Dockers coming up in these next 3 weeks. So make or break for the Dogs and for Carlton and the Dockers.
Yep. All I can say is it's a very good time for the fans at the moment and who love footy, because no position is certain. You can say probably Geelong are safest at the moment, but any other team, it could change anyway. And Collingwood can come into top 4 as well, believe it or not, the way they've been playing.
This is the most even season in years. So
Yes,
awesome.
yes.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. And that's what sort of brings us to the footy as well, that we're going to have a close game and every team would be playing to their full potential. Top 8 position not certain, top 4 is not certain. So what a time we are having at the moment.
Collingwood as well in the hunt for a top 4 position. I've mentioned Carlton before about what a remarkable season they've had. The Pies, 8 in a row. Just a superb feel-good story of the year. Of course, McRae has done wonders at that football club. Essendon on a giant killing spree at the moment. They've knocked off some really good sides. Can they do it against the Pies? I think the Pies are due for a loss.
Oh, definitely. The amount of wins they have, they are probably due for a loss. But those games, Collingwood and Essendon game, doesn't matter what skill level you are, what ladder position you are on. There are few games which are played on like heart and emotions, and that's one of the games. So both the teams, they know who they're up against. More than anything, that's what's going to be the driving force for that game. And don't feel too surprised if Essendon can pull an upset. I'm saying upset because Collingwood been winning either the scrappy way or anything like that, but they've been winning. But Essendon, the way they are building up now, and they've got a point to prove. Stringer coming into a good hot form, Draper as well, and Peter Wright over there. I think they've got a very good chance against Collingwood Pies.
And if the Saints are to resurrect their season, they must do it against the West Coast Eagles. And they also have the Hawks coming up. So this next fortnight, absolutely crucial for them to maintain their striking distance within the 8. I think they'll be too good for West Coast in West Coast.
Well, it couldn't have come at a better time for them. I think that's probably the opposition they would want to play against and get their season back on track, but they'll be missing Ryder as well, so that's going to be a huge loss. And I can see West Coast is sort of on the brink of coming up as well. Their players are performing well, so they might upset St Kilda, but St Kilda's got a best game and they need to rock up in that game, not like what they did against the Bulldogs until fourth quarter.
Well, if they repeat that performance, the season is officially over for the Saints. I'm calling it now.
Thank you, guys. Don't forget to listen to our Western Bulldogs against Melbourne broadcast in Punjabi language with Javier Singh Khan from the Multicultural AFL Footy Show. And Ragbir Kuman, listen live on the AFL Matchday app Saturday the 23rd of July, 7:25 p.m. And on Sunday the 24th of July, starting 1:10 p.m., the NEMBC presents from Marvel Stadium Carlton against the GWS Giants, broadcast in Italian language with Angela Khan and Daniel De Laurentiis. Listen live on the AFL Matchday app, Sunday 1:10 p.m. This brings me to my tip selections, and this week I'm going to tip Fremantle, Sydney, Hawthorn, Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, Carlton, Collingwood, and St Kilda. Well, that is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44, Friday, 6:30 p.m., on Aurora Foxtel TV at 1 p.m. Saturday, and on the NEMBC AFL YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity News in 8 languages can be heard on select national multicultural radio stations. I am Vanessa Gatica, and from our panelists here at the studio, Javier and George, good night, and we shall see you next week.